All right, let's stay with this massive story on corruption now. A KwaZulu-Natal private security owner, Calvin Mathibeli, has broken his silence about what he's described as consistent abuse and intimidation from the political killings task team. Mathibeli says members of the PKTT and other police raided his business premises last December using a fraudulent warrant of arrest, using a case number for someone else. He says KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is abusing his position to pursue the agenda of his competitors in the private security industry and a notorious family which owns taxis in the province. It's a very web-like story. Newzroom Afrika's Ziyanda Ngcobo has more on this exclusive sit-down interview, which will play a little later on this afternoon, Ziyanda. Thanks for coming into studio. So there was this statement from the KZN Police yesterday. Yeah. We have it here in front of us. Yeah. It regards this particular individual that you have had this sit-down interview with. What does it say, and where does it say the tension comes from?
Okay, Michelle, thanks. So this story
starts... Take a deep breath.
Yeah, because it's quite complex, so I'm going to take you through it bit by bit.
Yeah.
So in the first instance, this interview that we've conducted with Calvin Mathibeli was done on the 20th of January this year. And this particular interview is about a raid that took place at Mathibeli's business premises and his private residence in Durban on the 19th of December last year. And so that's the second raid that's coming up. That's the first raid. But last Friday, there was a second raid at the same person's business premises. He owns Calvin and Family Group last Friday, and those are the visuals that we are seeing on the screen now, which is a part of what he says has been the consistent harassment and intimidation by the police. So let me start off with the first raid that took place at his premises, because it is there where the allegations of police using a fraudulent warrant of arrest come in, and that's precisely why it's taken us quite a while to actually play this particular interview, because we had to confirm the veracity of this warrant of arrest and also go to various bodies. So we actually went to the Germiston Magistrates Court, where it seems this case was registered. And then we went to the Edenvale Police Station, and they were able to confirm that the CAS number linked to the warrant of arrest is not linked to Calvin Mathibeli in the first instance. It's linked to another man. I won't give his full name, but their surname is Perumal. That's the first thing. The second thing is they also advised that they don't have a Colonel Smith at their station, which seems to be the name that was used when they presented themselves. But we also were able to independently verify that this particular warrant of arrest for the 19th of December raid was fraudulent. Now, I've given you the timeline. We've done the interview on the 20th. We did go to the KwaZulu-Natal KZN SAP's spokesperson to give them a right of reply, because these are very serious allegations. By the way, Mathibeli says that he had received a call from a reliable source before this raid took place to say that he must leave wherever he is, because police are coming and they're coming to shoot him. And the intention is to then cover up by saying that he shot first.
This is what he was told.
This is what he was told by the source. So he unpacks in this interview that we're going to air at 1:30 how everything unfolded, but they didn't find him there. They went to his, private residence in Lelusha, and then they went to one of his business premises where they found his wife. And the CCTV footage of that particular day is also going to be beamed in that particular interview. But what becomes interesting is that we did this interview on the 21st. On the 22nd, we received a response from KZN SAP spokesperson Robert Nchiyunda, and the first question I asked was, what was the nature of the operation of the 19th of December 2025? And the response says the nature of the operation was the execution of a warrant of arrest.
What we now know is a fraudulent
which is a fraudulent
arrest.
warrant of arrest. We then went to the DPCI, and they also confirmed that this warrant of arrest is not related to Mr. Mathibeli in any way, and that the DPCI in Gauteng does not have a case against Mr. Mathibeli, and they also believe the warrant of arrest is fraudulent. Now,
and they also say that they intend to investigate this
matter for further.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is where we stand. So that's the 19th of December. Now, fast forward to yesterday's statement from the KZN South African Police Service. I know we're shuffling through quite a lot of papers, and it's because we've tried to get this right as much as possible. What happened last Friday, and I'm hoping maybe the team can bring those visuals up. Last Friday, there was another raid at the premises of Mr. Calvin Mathibeli, which he says is a continuation of this harassment and intimidation. The motive, by the way, Michelle, he says, is because KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is doing the bidding of his competitors in the private security industry. That's the first reason. But also, he currently has a lawsuit against the KZN South African Police Service because they, under the guise, according to him, of an inspection of firearms, which is par for the course if you own a private security firm, they seized weapons as far back as 2023, and they've not returned those weapons despite having gone through ballistics testing and and checking with SIRA whether or not these weapons are lawfully registered. So yesterday, Mr. Mathibeli took to his social media platforms to actually detail what, what we're discussing now, in particular, this 19th of December incident. And this particular rant, I would say, on Facebook, then triggered a statement from the KZN South African Police Service, in which, I mean, they are basically saying they've noted with disdain malicious, baseless, and unfounded and somewhat threatening social media post by one Calvin Mathibeli. But you go through, then they go through the nature of what he has said, which is basically that Mkhwanazi and KZN Police and using the PKTT have been captured to actually, commit crime and are basically rogue. And in that particular statement, then Mr. Mathibeli, the KZN police say, now that Mr. Mathibeli has introduced himself to the police in KwaZulu-Natal, his utterances were simply an invitation to police in KwaZulu-Natal to start looking into his business dealings, and police have learned that he is a beneficiary of a tender with the Department of Health in Gauteng. Police in KZN will give him the attention he is seeking and get the ball of investigations rolling. Now,
is it just me, or does that sound a little threatening?
Well, it sounds very tense indeed, and it's on that note that I actually want you to hear just a snippet of what Calvin Mathibeli actually says in that particular interview.
Apparently, what will have happened is that the police, numbers of police, different units, PKTT, there were also members of DOC unit and other units as well. It was a well-mobilized operation whereby these guys, they came there, they were pointing guns at my house, and they found my sister in that house. And when they found my sister, they were saying that they came to arrest me. They've got a warrant of arrest. Then can she call me? And my sister tried to call me. And as my sister tried to call me, I didn't take that call, Ziyanda.
Okay.
Mainly because 10 minutes prior to, I got a call to say...
From who?
My reliable source.
Okay.
Who called me and informed me that there are police coming to assassinate me, under the pretext that I failed to cooperate, and therefore I shot back at the police, which is their modus operandi. That is a well-known modus operandi.
I mean, it's chilling to hear him describe what sounds like him being just inches away if he had been on the premises and been caught up in that raid by police and the Hawks. what I will say, and the PKTT, what I will say, Ziyanda, is that the story seems simple in one way, in that this family, who is essentially in competition with Calvin Mathibeli in the private security industry, does it then mean, if all of these allegations are true, and this other family has so much pull to effect a fake warrant of arrest to involve the political killings task team, that this family is then in control of certain arms of law enforcement?
I mean, this is precisely what we're even looking at when we're talking about the allegations that are being looked into at the Nhlanhla Commission of Inquiry.
Right.
It's the influence and infiltration of the criminal justice system. But now, Mr. Mathibeli turns it on its head, and he is actually accusing the man who actually stood on the podium on the 6th of July, 2025, of doing the very thing that he actually brought to the fore before the South African public. In fact, I want us to reflect on something else that Mathibeli says, because he does speak about this influential and powerful family whom he claims Mkhwanazi is doing the bidding for in KwaZulu-Natal. And I'll give you the context of where he believes things might have come to a head insofar as him being a target of this consistent intimidation and harassment. So you are claiming that General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the KZN Police Commissioner, is doing the bidding for private security firms that are your competitors in the province, which is why you are saying you have a target on your back. Am I understanding you correctly?
Not only that, including very notorious taxi people. He doesn't work mainly for these private security sectors. He's working with taxi people that have been targeting me.
Who are those people?
Well, for now, we didn't want to mention people's name, but there are people whom have been bullying me as well, myself as well. The same people. They've tried. There are a lot of hits that have been put on myself. I can count a number of those, whereby one of the most recent one, which was plotted against me, was for me to be assassinated there was assassination planned on the 15th of May 2024 by the same people.
So he speaks about this particular family, and in the interview, Michelle, he gives an example of this intimidation where he says, there was once a crisis, and it's well recorded, at RK Khan Hospital in KwaZulu-Natal, where actually there was an issue with the security firm that was there before, Mafoko Security Services, where they weren't able to pay their staffers, money. And so this created a crisis in the hospital where they actually had to bring in emergency services. And he says that he was then brought in to come and stabilize the situation where it's a government hospital, it needs to be secured. And you'll get the detail in the interview at 1:30, but he basically tells the story of how it seemingly that crisis was created an opportunity, of course, for some, and it was clearly earmarked for this particular family to take over this contract. And he says he received a call from one of the family members of this powerful taxi family, and who asked him, what is he doing there? And he explained that I've been brought in to stabilize the situation. And basically, this person told them that agafuni chithegi gazi. In other words, to loosely translated, they don't want any blood to be shed. So this is the example that he gives of the levels of, one, tensions within the private security industry, which I think is also a branch that has been explored within the Nhlanhla Commission of Inquiry, but the vying of, for contracts, tenders, and the likes, and how there's a nexus with, the government, potentially politicians, but also even now potentially the South African Police Service. Now, Michelle, it's important that I reflect this, because as we were about to do the interview, as you can see that coming up board on the side of our screens, I then received a call from General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi as well. And I had a brief conversation with him, and this was in relation to the raid last Friday on the 13th of Feb. He wanted to know what was going to be happening. I said there's an interview, and this is the nature of the interview, but also the raid. He says he is, and I'm going to try to pull up the quote. I'm trying to get my mind correct, but he said, and I jotted it down here, he is willing to, is vowed to defend his reputation because he feels that Mr. Mathibeli has now directly, implicated him, but also the KZN police commissioner says the raid last week was not by him, it was not organized by him, but it was national that had sent police to go and raid those premises. Now that becomes very interesting because that's also an issue that he has even decried at the Nhlanhla Commission of Inquiry, where there are operations that take place within KwaZulu-Natal without his knowledge. Right. He said he was doing an operation, where he was actually somewhere else. He doesn't have Facebook, and he was made aware of Mr. Mathibeli's post, and then he started inquiring because of the post that Mr. Mathibeli made, but also because of the questions and the footage that was played regarding this raid on the 13th of Feb. So again, it also gives you another layer of the dynamics between the national office and the KZN office. So it is a complex story, but the long and short of it is that Mr. Mathibeli makes some very damning allegations against the KZN police, the political killings task team, and in particular, KZN Provincial Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you, because obviously, just given what we've heard from the snippets you've played for us, how you've painted the picture of the story for us, there is clearly involvement from the police in terms of these raids being organized, right? Because you can't raid, you can't effect a warrant of arrest that you know to be false. The warrant doesn't correspond with the person who you're meant to be effecting this warrant of arrest for. So clearly there is some kind of outside involvement in how police have done their work in this particular case. But the question that I have for you is, what does Mathibeli say he knows that implicates directly the KZN Police Commissioner in doing the bidding of this family who's in competition with him in the private security industry?
And that's a very important question. And I even ask him the same thing, to say, are you not someone who's here to counter a narrative? Because currently the entire country
because we
is
don't
bedeviled.
know what to believe.
Exactly.
Ziyanda. We're getting, just from the Nhlanhla Commission of Inquiry, we're getting stories from every single side. We're being bombarded with version A, B, and C on every single issue, right?
And so how Mr. Mathibeli placates Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi at the center of it, which is what the commissioner is saying. I don't understand how he has a problem with me personally, can have a problem with the police, you can have a problem with the raid last Friday, but why do you put my name in it? It's exactly the question I also ask him, that is there any evidence of Mkhwanazi benefiting directly for doing the bidding of this family, or even other competitors of Calvin Mathibeli, and that seemingly Mkhwanazi has a relationship with, or he has puppet masters in this regard. And he says, in not so many words, he's got evidence of this. He didn't want to mention this family's name, so it's very important to note that. But also, he says that this goes as far back as that lawsuit that he's issued, and he says the timelines are for him quite questionable, because this matter regarding, remember I told you about them seizing firearms, and those firearms are yet to be returned to him. That case was supposed to sit late last year, and then the KZN police then asked for more time to actually, organize themselves better, and so then they actually had to pay costs for that. And then he says, a week or some days later, then, he had the police arriving at his premises on the 19th. So he says it's a form of silencing. But also he says his biggest sin is that he seems to be protecting the enemies of the so-called, family, but he says he has evidence of how Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is at the center of it, so much so that he's going to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, he's written to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, and I suppose because he's also mentioned, by the way, Mr. Mathibeli is also mentioned, he was mentioned by Revo Spies from the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department as having possibly been one of those who benefited from the installation of blue lights. He's suing, Calvin Mathibeli is suing Revo Spies for 100 million rand. So it's a lot of information to take in, and I can completely understand that. But I would actually just say, watching at 1:30 should be interesting. And now I know for sure that the KZN police will also be watching too, and perhaps we can also get them on to actually also give their side of the story yet again. In particular, the most concerning thing, at least for me, is around this fraudulent warrant of arrest.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll be watching. That is an open invitation to KZN Police to come on after 1:30. You can catch this full exclusive sit-down interview with Calvin Mathibeli here on 405 1:30. Set your alarms. I was going to ask you a number of follow-up questions, but we might just give it all away then. So let's leave it there. Ziyanda and Ngcobo with that exclusive interview.